Welcome back, everybody. This is a 2004 Case 60XT. I bought it a couple months back. Definitely didn't look like this when I first got it. I've given it a paint job and did a bit of basic maintenance on it. The biggest issue now is this bucket. It's big and it's ugly. It's actually a Bobcat bucket. There's a tag on the back, which is going to be impossible to read, but it's there. It says it's a snow bucket, and I guess that makes sense. It seems to have a pretty large capacity. But the biggest issue with that is you can't see the cutting edge while sitting in the machine. This entire top portion here, about here up, it's just way too tall. So I'm gonna modify it. It needs to be fixed anyway. See down here, this bottom corner is smashed, but there's a lot more wrong with the bottom than just this. I'll get this thing taken off and show you guys the bottom side. That's where the worst is. But I'm gonna chop it down as well. I think I'm gonna cut it off somewhere right in here, just above where the coupler kind of stops. Maybe right in line with it. I'm gonna come through like this and then chop it off flat like that. I think that'll keep most of the capacity, but make it a lot more useful. Now you can see the bottom here. It's worn right through. I guess that's just a reinforcement plate that's worn through, but you get to the corner here. That's worn through. This is, I guess, a triangle shaped backing. Because the actual bucket inside sort of goes like that. This piece is all bent up as well. It connects the two sides of the coupler together. I think I'm going to take off this piece here to begin with. Get rid of that, and then probably going to cut out all this triangle stuff. Probably cut off this piece as well, and just leave these plates here that bend up, and they have the spot for the pin to slide in on both sides. And then kind of just rebuild all of that. Okay, step one complete. You can see here that they didn't actually attach it to these long runners. It was just butted up. Now the next section here, we'll take off this piece that is part of this triangle. Goes over the top, and you can see through this hole that it's just packed full of dirt. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, there it is. Boy, I thought that might happen. Never a dull moment. Just popped right off. Now that looks like it's packed full of dirt. Totally packed full. Pretty sure it's supposed to be hollow in there. Let's get that cleaned out and see what it looks like. Okay, it is indeed hollow in there. It's a pretty big space too. Now there's one hole there from the outside. And there's one more over here. Kind of hard to believe all that dirt got in there like that. And then from here, you can see I'm gonna have to replace this piece as well because it looks like it's really thin, and that's probably why it's getting all like caved in and distorted here from use. It got too thin and the skid steer is pushing on it. If anybody knows why Bobcat put those holes in there, let me know in the comments, because I don't know why you'd want that space to fill up with dirt like that. Alright, now that we got some access here, let's straighten this thing out. Go fold it over this end piece is. Okay, this is how I've decided to beef up the internal structure of this coupler bucket area here. This is 3/8 plate that was left over from the crane. I've put a piece along the edge here. It's held on with this clamp. Right now, this is going to be strengthening for where that pin goes through when it gets locked onto the machine. And then this will all be covered over like it was before, except I'm going to seal it all up so it doesn't get full of dirt and rust this time. So this is 3/16 steel plate. I think the original was 1/8 inch. All that stuff that was rotted out. I got it all tacked on now. So all we gotta do now is burn it all in. I've cut the corners off, as you can see. I really didn't like that pointy corner on the edge of the bucket. And after this, we're going to have to do something with these pieces here, sort of replicate the original, how it's sort of like a wear piece. I think I'm going to use some of that 3/8 plate that I had from the crane. All the sacrificial pieces are welded on now. I decided to try a little bit of stick welding. Haven't done that in a long time. And it shows. I'm no icy weld, that's for sure. Some of these were pretty bad at the beginning, but these pieces are meant to be removed when they wear out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I think some of the better ones are probably over here. But most of them were worse. I built up this edge too a little bit. Some rebar and some of that 3/16 plate, just to kind of give it something. It was really sharp there, and I don't really want to replace this edge right away. They're kind of expensive for those cutting edges. I don't even know what this edge is. It seems like it's maybe from a grader or a snowplow or something. Don't really think the bucket came with this. It's got these big countersunk holes where it would have had bolts to go into those. And somebody just welded this thing on. Anyway, the bottom here is a lot more protected now than it was. So I think we'll give it some paint, even though that's going to wear off, but whatever. And then we can flip it over and start chopping it down to size. Okay, now the part that I've been most waiting for here. Cutting this thing down a little bit. Now I've drawn a line. You can see it there, and then it comes across the back. All the way across. Right at the top of the coupler. That's where I want to bring these step points down to. Some sort of rebar or something that I don't know what they were doing. Somebody welded that on there. There's one there and a little chunk of it on this side too. So we got to get rid of that, and then got to do something about this reinforcing here. Got to get rid of that, and this extra whatever's going on here, it's the extension of the coupler, I guess. That'll get cut off as well. And then we can slice right through it all. These side pieces, I think somebody did this when they did that bottom edge. They're kind of bent. We'll try to straighten them eventually. That one's not too bad. This one's bent pretty good. And you can see where the bucket actually was. It was right through here. So my cut line here will be the top of the actual bucket, but then I have to come through here somehow and take this piece and turn it so that this piece will still stick up above the edge of the top of the bucket. Anyway, let's get started on removing these extra reinforcements. Okay, it's looking good now that extra metal's gone. Put my cut line back on here. It'll go all the way across. You can see there's a bit of undercut from the plasma cutter where it dug in a little too deep, but that won't be a problem. This is all going to get moved down anyway, and then it'll be sort of a double layer here when it's welded back together at the new height. So it'll be plenty strong enough through there. Now I've marked out on the side the cut lines here. So I need to keep this piece, well, I want to keep it, and this is the actual cut line through the middle. But this piece is higher. It sticks up. Well, you can see on the inside here. So that was added on probably afterwards. Somebody did that at one point. Now I want to cut it so that it continues through, coming up like this and then over. So if I cut it right down this line here, I'm thinking this piece will be able to just flip it over, and then it'll fit right back in like that. I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's chop it. Well, it looks like it fits. And it's quite a bit shorter now. Now it's just sitting in there temporary. Biggest thing I noticed was that that top bar is actually bent. It's kind of hard to see here. Gap gets bigger in the middle. So we're gonna have to straighten this somehow. And I'm thinking the best way would probably be the excavator. It's been a few months since I've started it, so let's see how good the batteries are. To set that piece of steel there up underneath this bucket, and we'll give it a little bit of a press. Here we go. This shows a little better how bowed it is. Fits like a glove. And now that it's straight, there's no gap. Look at that. Alright, check it out. That main reinforcement's all welded in across the top there, and I've done the sides now as well. So this bucket is just about done. I like how the sides come up higher than the actual back of the bucket. We'll just protect it all and give it a bit more capacity too. So I'm still undecided whether I'm going to put a piece down along the bottom here to sit on top of this one. I don't know, maybe 3 inches tall or something, all the way along the bottom, just to reinforce this corner. Might still do that, and I want to do something here. This is where the skid steer hooks in, like this, right underneath. But it doesn't seem like it's grabbing very much. So if we look at the machine, you can see that when it's on there, it's only comes to about here. It's like just the tip of this coupler here, it's grabbing. So I mean, I can bring it back all the way to this weld or something. I can probably add about 1 inch. I kind of noticed it when I was hooking up the bucket. It seemed like it was a little difficult just to get just that edge of it tucked under there. So if I add a bit more, maybe bring it out, well, that would only be about 1/2 inch to there, so bring it out more, and probably just along like this, and then bring it back on an angle. Same thing on this side, and then run a little plate over top as well. Then I'll have more to hook onto. So that wraps up the fabrication on the bucket. Just put these holes in. I wanted a way to hook some chains up if I needed to pull on things or pull on the machine. And I didn't really want to weld hooks onto the bucket anywhere. So I thought these holes would work good. It's a 5/16 chain I was testing there, so the hook for one of those fits right through. You could probably get a hook for a bigger chain to fit through too. There's also holes under here. It's probably hard to see. There's a hole up in there. So I can hook the chain there too. That'll give me something closer to the middle if I need to do that. And I added these plates on. I was going to just strengthen up the corner and add a bit of wear protection. That corner was wearing out pretty good before. And the extension for where the coupler hooks up. Ended up going with 3/4 of an inch and then plated it on top to strengthen it up and kind of smooth it out. So yeah, I think that's it finally. Some of these holes turned out a little better than others. Do your best to be a human CNC. Now it needs a bit of a paint job. I think it looks pretty good for a bucket that's just going to get all scratched up anyway. Got to start off fresh though, right? I like how the steps kind of pop out with the red. It matches the other steps on the machine. that a success. It's a lot easier to get in and out, and I can see the cutting edge now. I think it looks better on the machine as well. Well, that squeak seems to have gone away now that it's warmed up. It's kind of weird because I changed all the accessory drive stuff when I got the machine. New water pump, new idler bearings, stuff like that, new belt. I don't know why it was squeaking, but you may have noticed in the video that the bucket kind of has a jerking motion when you want to bring it down. The loader arms sort of jerk and then go down. I'm going to figure that out in the next video. It's kind of annoying, and I think it's a simple little relief valve or something in the, maybe a check valve in the control valve in the machine. Makes it really hard to control it when it goes down. It also loads the engine up a little bit, bringing it down, which you think it shouldn't do, because going down it would have the weight of the loader arms to bring it down, so it shouldn't need to put any load on the engine to bring the loader